spun to run. In the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, he defeated a loaded field that included multiple Grade 1 winners Omaha Beach and Improbable. His brilliant speed figures were among the fastest of any 3-year-old at a mile or more. And he hails from the legendary Danzig sire line. Multiple graded stakes winner, millionaire, Breeders' Cup champion, spun to run, standing at Gainesway.
Hey everybody, it's Jay Privman along with Marty McGee back for this year's Derby Watch Top 20. And Marty, our first list for the 2022 Kentucky Derby comes out today on February the 16th. It'll be online at DRF.com. You can find all our information there. But let's start by showing who our top 20 are and then explain why you decided to make Smile Happy the favorite at the moment.
Well, at the moment being the key phrase there, Jay, 5-1 on Smile Happy, 6-1 on Modonegal, 8-1 on Classic Causeway, everybody else from 10 to 50. I'd like to caution you and everybody else that this is if the Derby was run tomorrow, what the odds might be, but otherwise, I think at this point in mid-February that you would be crazy to bet on Smile Happy at 5-1. This is just kind of a gauge, I guess you could say, as to where we stand right now. Obviously, there are some other horses who would have a shot at making the Derby down the road, but this is it for now and subject to change.
So as you can see, what Marty and I did is we came up with the 20 horses that we've got as our top 20 at the moment. But as Marty mentioned, a lot can change. It will change every week, and there's some significant racing this weekend because Marty, 6 of the 20 horses that we have on this list are running on Saturday in the Risen Star at Fairgrounds. It's the first race that's got 85 points overall on the road to the Derby with 50 to the winner. So it's a win and you're in. Let's talk about a couple of the others in this race. Papa Cap, Zandon, Epicenter, Slow Down Andy, Pioneer of Medina specifically. Those are the other horses besides Smile Happy in here. It's a pretty good field.
Oh, it's by far the best race so far, Jay, unless you want to talk about the Kentucky Jockey Club, which has been coming up a key race. You do have the winner of that race, Smile Happy, in there. He is the, I believe, 7-2 favorite on the morning line. They're pretty well bunched in terms of how the odds are on the morning line there. But, you know, I really think that Papa Cap is going to have to move up a little bit, move forward from his last race in the Lecomte. He is kind of the flag bearer for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile run last November in Del Mar, in that pretty much nothing has come out of that race so far, Jay, except for him to run creditably in the Lecomte as a runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. But overall, it's kind of shaping up as the way we had it 3 years ago when the Breeders' Cup Juvenile just proved a real flop.
Well, Marty, we'll see which horses this weekend are gaining ground on the Derby Watch Top 20, even though right now, as you mentioned, they are well bunched. The Holy Bull is one of the races that impacted our Derby Watch Top 20. Top 3 finishers out of this race are on our list: White Abarrio, Simplification, and Modonegal. And Marty, White Abarrio specifically a horse to talk about, as you referenced. The Kentucky Jockey Club has so far proven to be the most significant race among the 2-year-old set from last year. He finished 3rd in that race. What did you think of his performance and the other horses who chased him home in the Holy Bull a couple of weeks ago?
Well, Jay, I thought White Abarrio was terrific. I mean, he caught a flyer at the start. You know, this was just his first race in 10 weeks or so since the Kentucky Jockey Club, coming off a 3rd place finish in that race. But he ran terrific to the extent that Saffie Joseph Jr., his trainer, doesn't want to run him back in 4 weeks in the Fountain of Youth here at Gulfstream Park. He's going to wait the 8 weeks and just pretty much roll the dice in terms of getting enough points by running him here at Gulfstream Park in the April 2nd Florida Derby. I thought he ran tremendous, made no mistakes. Simplification really was the horse who ran on well to be second after a poor start under Javier Castellano. And then Modonegal, I thought a very useful race for him off his Remsen effort to run 3rd, almost 2nd here in the Holy Bull.
Yeah, all of these horses we think have the potential to move forward off this race. I really like Modonegal's race, Marty. I just think this is a horse who's kind of a grinder, and I think going 1.1 miles with the short stretch in those kinds of races at Gulfstream over a track that tends to favor speed, I thought it was a race where the circumstances were against his style of running, and I thought he acquitted himself well, and we're looking forward to seeing how he progresses. He could run back in the Fountain of Youth or instead await the Wood Memorial. That's what Todd Pletcher told us are the decisions to be made with Mo Donegal. That's where they're at as of mid-February with him. Marty, let's take a look at another race. It's the most recent of the preps run on the road to the Derby. That was the Sam Davis last week at Tampa Bay. You were there. Give me your impressions of Classic Causeway's performance.
Well, much like White Barrio, Jay, he too, Classic Causeway, caught a flyer at the start, and that pretty much changed the entire complexion of the race for himself and everybody else. He relaxed beautifully on the front end, but as noted in one of our stories in the Racing Forum this week, Brian Lynch wants to see that horse, Classic Causeway, his trainer, Brian Lynch, wants to see him relax behind horses in a similar fashion. And I'm sure that at some point he will get an opportunity to do that, but to try and attempt to go gate to wire every time the way he did, it was a matter of circumstance, more or less, that Irad Ortiz found himself on the lead. He shook off a pretty good horse in Little Vic, a horse that our colleague Mike Welsh thinks is a good horse, maybe at a shorter distance. But the fact that he just kind of left him in the dust and jogged home, quite impressive. And his Beyer speed figure of 88 was close to the 90 that he got, that made him such a sudden phenomenon among people talking about this year's Derby class when he broke his maiden at Saratoga.
Yeah, I really like the way, Marty, he shook off the early pace rivals, as you mentioned, Little Vic being one of them. The two horses closest to him early were well back at the end of the race, and he took that hot pace, went on with it, won comfortably in a race where, other than him, everything else came from well back. So overall, it looked like a race that favored late runners, with the notable exception of Classic Causeway. So I thought it was a better than look performance, maybe even on paper. I thought it was a high quality kind of race, and we'll certainly be keeping tabs on where he ends up next, with obviously the Tampa Bay Derby being the most likely spot for him, and that's what we've got him slotted in at for his next race. As you'll notice when you see the Derby Watch Top 20, both online and in print, Marty and I endeavor to get in touch with every trainer of every horse that's on our list to find out where those horses are intended to run for their next starts and who will be riding them. And so we try and give you the most up-to-date information on all of that. The last thing that we want to discuss is one of the most significant aspects of this year's Kentucky Derby, and that's the situation regarding Bob Baffert. You will notice it is conspicuous that we do not have any Bob Baffert trainees on our list, and we'll explain to you why in a moment. But the two that we would have put on under normal circumstances are Messier and Newgrange. And Marty, you had mentioned to me that if we did include Messier, you would have him favored right now.
Yeah, I think he'd be about 3 or 4 to 1 in here, Jay. I mean, he was just so awesome in winning the Robert Lewis, and it's just got Bob Baffert written all over it. You know, he's absolutely dominated the Derby in the last 25 years, and I think this Bob would, I'm sure he would say this is his best prospect. And then Newgrange, you know, looked similarly good in winning it at Oaklawn Park last out.
Right. So those are a couple of Baffert horses that we would have included on the list. As you know, Baffert also trains last year's male 2-year-old champion Corniche. He's gotten a late start to his training this year. He hasn't even breezed yet. And even if he were eligible for the Derby as of now, we would not have included him in our top 20 owing to his late start this year. The reason that we have not included any of the Baffert horses is because as of today, February 16th, those horses have yet to earn any points owing to Churchill Downs's ban of Baffert from this year's Derby as well as next year's. And until that changes, or unless that changes, and these horses begin to earn points, and the only way that can happen is if there's a legal challenge to the current standing that would allow Baffert to now have horses run and earn points, or if the owners of the horses that are intended for the Derby decide to move those horses to another trainer, then they can, at that point, start earning points. Neither of those things have happened yet. And until they do, we've decided that those horses will not be on the Derby Watch Top 20. If something changes on either of those fronts, then we will certainly reevaluate. One thing to note, as of today, February 16th, there is zero indication from the owners of Messier and Newgrange. That's a large partnership headed by SF Racing and Starlight Racing. No indication at all from that partnership that they intend to move their horses from Baffert, at least at this point. So I think, Marty, that's kind of an overview of how we decided to frame this and what our qualifications were. And I think that for this point in time, it's the right way to go.
Yeah, very well said, Jay. I mean, it's going to be another weird Derby. We've, I long for the days of Spectacular Bid and Unbridled and all the, the good old Kentucky Derbies. We've had the Justify and the DQ in 2019 and the COVID Derby in 2020. And then last year, of course, the Medina Spirit. Looks like we got another curious one coming our way.
So regardless of how all that plays out, we'll be covering it all at DRF.com. Matt Hegarty is handling all the legal aspects of this year's Kentucky Derby. Marty and I will stick to what goes on between the rails at the racetracks, and obviously the Risen Star on Saturday starts the round of races worth 85 points overall and 50 to the winner. From this point forward, every Wednesday, there'll be a Derby Watch update that'll reflect the results of the previous week and also preview the coming week's action. And Marty and I will be doing 2 videos next week in that regard. Thanks for joining us as we kick off our road to the 2022 Kentucky Derby. For Marty McGee, I'm Jay Privman. We'll see you next week.